Those of you on Facebook Live and YouTube, welcome to the Home Spiritual Center Sunday service for June 9th, 2024. Our opening prayer. God, I would like to thank you for this place, the Home Spiritual Center, for all the years that it has been holding space here in Salem, Oregon. Holding space for anyone by another is a spiritual privilege and one I do not take lightly. 32 years of holding space is a testimony of our love and our forgiveness here. Even though on occasion the love and the forgiveness target was tested, we became masters of pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps and stepping right back into holding space, honoring our commitment to the Home Center, now the Home Spiritual Center. We love this place more than life itself, those of us that are here for the long haul. I have been blessed beyond all measure to experience the richness in life and the feeling of love, the friendships I've made. The true love I saw in Reverend J when I first walked into this place is manifest in this place, and it fills me with joy each time I step into this chapel. Forgive me my reminiscences this morning. Sometimes it just feels right talking about it and praying about it. In my love and light, holding space for you all in my heart. Amen. And now we have special music. Yes, go ahead. I ran out of talk.
Very cool. Hello, everybody. Just want to say thank you for having an air-conditioned room, because there's this little tiny thing out there that we all need. It's called pollen, and it's just flying all over the place. So our song is going to be called Hello, Pollen, my old friend. Is it time for the Claritin? That's all. That's as far as I got. So, but I wrote this song a long time ago, and it's about youth and playgrounds and just discovering life and discovering love and all that stuff. So here we go. And I changed the key, so because it's better for me to sing in this key. I screwed up right there. Ha! We'll do it again. Let's get it right this time. I was dancing around that maple swing, looking for that golden ring to my heart. She was spinning on that jungle tune, kicked the tan bark on the outer rim where it started. The sound of sirens pulsate my ears. Oh, just a recess bell curling me near where she'd stand out to take my hand out and we step into life, the grounds of our life. Turning on to love's handspring, the goddess of 10,000 things, hypnotized by feeling a place so deep. She asks me if I'll take a leap in her eyes. Perfect somersaults, my mind unflips. Oh, we kissed, swing sets with our fingertips. Uncaptured, me and that rapture, we're gonna feel in the playgrounds of our love. Splats down from that infinite sea. Where's the light floating over me? I breathe her out, oh, she's breathing in me. just to live a life for fun. Two hearts floating in one carousel. All the horses in a tranquil world. I say yes to this magical wishing well. Angels are there in the goings. Dance us together in love symphony. Are what we stand for. We'll shake the dance floor. Feeling so fine in the playgrounds of our life. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Whoop, it disappeared. Thank you anyway. Yeah, so to Dick's point, the 32nd anniversary of the Home Center is June 25th. Yeah. So we're coming up on 32 years. Thank you for that. I was looking through the calendar and I thought, oh my goodness, it's coming right up. Yes, 1992 was when it was established. Yeah. And the horoscope, I had the horoscope drawn up when I was on my cruise with the astrologer. And Home Center's astrology chart is very interesting as well. I want to go into it deeper and understand it more and be able to share more of what it has to say. But that's up and coming. Cliffhanger. Oh. All right. So my message today is about raising it up. The message today has been brewing for a little while, and it came from the time that I drew a tarot card from one of my favorite decks. And the card that I drew was one of the major arcana cards, and it was the Judgment card. And however, the person that did this deck interpreted it as discernment. And that got me going down this rabbit hole of thought of spiritual teaching around that I'm going to unpack and share with you today. So, as we already know, life is so much, and how we experience life is so much about perception. It's how we perceive it. And that's why if there were 100 people witnessing an experience or an event, there are going to be 100 different interpretations and explanations and perceptions of what that event was. And what makes up the difference for us is what each person's perception is and what lens that is that they're viewing life and that they're taking it in. And what influences that perception is their history, their life experiences, their education, what emotions and thoughts are rattling around inside their internal landscape that they're experiencing life with, and a whole other myriad of things that create how we perceive things. But what else is one of the things that makes a difference is where we are at in our spiritual vibrational frequency, and what we might call that our spiritual development. That's not my favorite way of saying it because that sounds really judgy and kind of, greater, lesser kind of thing. And it's not. It just is something that's on a continuum that we're all on. But it's the only word that I know how to say it. So I said it. Lack of better ways of saying things sometimes is limiting. So anyway, we live in this third dimensional place, this third dimensional plane, this third dimensional world. And this is where all material things exist, is in this third dimension. And this is also what exists in this third dimension is polarities, good and bad, right and wrong, up and down. Win and lose is another thing that exists in this third dimension. But we know we're evolving. We know we're vibrating at higher frequencies or more intense frequencies, especially when we drop into our heart center. and our heart center is getting activated. It's getting, as all things are increasing in vibrational frequency, so are we. And our heart center is getting more and more activated. That's not just woo-woo stuff. They are showing this in science as well. So I love it when science supports us and what we're experiencing and what we know and believe. So it's part of our spiritual evolution, and it's what we're here on earth to do. It's what we're here on earth to experience and to fulfill our purpose with and to assist with as a global event. So as we increase our vibrational frequency by activating our heart center, things get more undefined and more vague. And that can cause complications sometimes. The principles of right and wrong, good and bad, they're important. It's important to have those markers of what's right and what's wrong. It's not okay to hurt anybody. That's wrong. It's good to use kind words when we talk to another person. So we still need those markers in our humanitarianism, in our society, of what's right and what's wrong. So we can't just throw that out with it. But we don't want to bypass our basic humanitarian principles in the name of spiritual evolution. It's not that either. But these polarities start to become blurry as we activate our heart center. And what I've learned is that there are 3 levels in the 4th dimension. So we're in the 3rd dimension. As we increase our frequency, we're entering another dimension. And that's another thing that science is showing. Love it. But this makes sense to me. As we progress and learn, we know that things, that growth, experience, progress happens on a slope. We don't just go from here to here. It happens on a gradual slope. So to say that there are 3 levels in the 4th dimension makes sense to me. And I'm going to just stick with the 4th dimension. It might be true with every dimension. I have no idea. But we're going to talk today about the 4th dimension, the one that we're evolving into. So the first level of the 4th dimension is when our servant's heart gets activated. We have an experience in the 3rd dimension. Life is hard. We have something happen. And then we grow from that, and our heart center gets activated, our servant's heart. We want to do good in the world. We want to be of service. We want to make a difference in our world, a difference in the environment. I want to help people now because I had this experience, and now I need to be of service. That's increasing to that first level of the 4th dimension. We recognize and start to understand that we're not separate from each other. We're not separate from our world. We're not separate, but we are interdependent. I need you. Hopefully you need me too, because I'm here. We need each other. We need nature. We're connected to all of it. We start to understand that when we increase that vibrational frequency. We start to feel responsible for the greater good of the whole. We start to realize that we have a responsibility to the wellness of the world, and how can I help that? We want to find our purpose. We want to make our difference. Oftentimes after a crisis, then we wake something up and say, I want to know what my purpose is. What's my purpose? Why am I here? The second level of the 4th dimension, we realize and understand that we're creators of our world from within. That's where we start to recognize that, I'm responsible for my world out here. We're learning about the laws that make our world happen, the laws of cause and effect, the laws of attraction. That's where we start learning that in the second level of the 4th dimension. At this stage, we realize that we need to do work on ourselves. If I'm responsible for my world and I'm responsible for what's happening, I got to work on this. I got to clean some stuff up. I got to do some forgiveness work, some releasing work. And when you realize that we need to change our beliefs, the things that have shaped our world. This is a very important step because it's here where we start taking responsibility for our life and our creation of our life. And it's here where we start to rise above being a victim to life, being a victim of our circumstances, being a victim of what other people do to us. We start realizing, oh, maybe I'm not just a victim that has to take all this stuff. Maybe I'm responsible and I can make a difference in my own world. So it's here where we tap into the study of what's in the beyond, what's outside of our vision, what's outside of this physical world. And we become aware and curious of ancient knowledge. We start studying other practices, other ways of being, and we start to learn how to apply it. And as necessary as this stage is, it's hard. This is a hard stage. We want to keep progressing. We don't want to get stuck there because it's about the process. And in this process, while we're processing that, very little manifestation happens in the second stage of the fourth dimension. It's because we're about processing. We're about releasing, letting go. And it's hard because we have this sense that I've been doing all this work. I have been working so hard at my personal growth and development, and my world is still a mess. Nothing's happening. And and it really is. And we've done all this internal work. We've done our forgiveness work. We've gone and pounded on sticks. We've let go. We've released. We've done our burning ceremonies. We've written those letters and burned them. We've rewritten our story. And we look around and our world is still hardly changed in this stage. And it's kind of discouraging. We start asking ourselves these questions of, why am I even doing this? Is it even worth it? I've lost these people and my world is still the same. It's still a mess. What in the heck? But it's just one of the stages. So when you get there, when you feel it, and we go up and down through these stages all the time. So we get in that stage, hang in there, because we're still just in that middle world of the fourth dimension. This energy of vibrational pattern, it doesn't penetrate the density of the third dimension very well. So that one isn't precise enough to be able to pierce our third dimension density, because this is dense. That's what the spirit world tells us in channeled information. It's so dense that we have to physically push our way through it. We have to walk. We can't just think and go like we can in higher dimensions or other dimensions. We think it and we're there. Oh, I want to be by the door. Poof, I'm by the door. In this dimension, we have to physically push ourselves through space, through time and space. So it feels like in this level, that we have gone one step forward and two steps back. Sometimes that's the way it feels. But don't give up. Don't give up. It's just almost there. You're right on the precipice of making that difference into that next level, the third level of the fourth dimension. So the upper level of the fourth dimension, the energy is very different. When we can pop through into that level, this level brings our experience of God and the divine into our world. We're living through the grace of God when we can clear out all the stuff that we've been working at. All that hard work pays off, because now you can just be. And it activates a part of our unconscious, our consciousness, and it's applied to our experience in life. And it's when we're here that we have surpassed our experience of separation. We no longer just, oh, I'm not separate from the world around me. We know it. We live that place of oneness, that place of connectedness to all that is, that connectedness to each other. And we don't even experience victimization. We don't have to process our way through victimization. We don't have to think our way out of victimization. We are just not victimized, period. It's a done deal. So in this stage, in this strata of our vibrational frequency and energy, things happen quickly. So it is done. It happens quickly because it doesn't have to be processed. And this level penetrates our third dimension very quickly. So manifestation happens very quickly. It just comes through. And we've all had those times when we think something and it happens, or we want something and it's there. It's a sign that we are in that strata in that vibrational frequency where we're not having to go through process, where we're not having to work hard. Doesn't mean sit back and be on your laurels and be lazy. It just means you've arrived or are arriving, at least in that moment. So what we think about, what we put our energy into, materializes and manifests in a much shorter period of time when we're in that place in vibrational frequency of being one with the divine, being one with God, living by God's rules. And might those rules be, we'll talk about that too. So rather than processing our internal dialogue and getting into alignment with higher frequencies of love and oneness and our God self, we transform. So we're not processing it through, we just transform it. We just alchemize a situation and stay in our God self, stay in our heart center, stay in those frequencies of love and oneness. So the difference between process and transform is an interesting one, because there is quite a difference with that. And it leads me back to the tarot card that I had mentioned in the beginning, that I had drawn quite some time ago. The card, as I said, was the Major Arcana card of Judgment. But the creator of the deck, she evaluated the word, or elevated the word judgment into discernment. So this set me back when I read that, and I just thought, that is so interesting, to take judgment and turn it into discernment. And I really thought about it, and that's what led me to the 3 levels of the 4th dimension. So as we vibrate more from our heart center, our frequency raises, our frequency increases. I keep forgetting I don't want to use the word raise, because there isn't a higher or lower, there's just intensity and lesser intensity. All vibration has its purpose and relationship. So anyway, as our frequency increases, our relationship with polarities, such as this is good and that's bad and that's right and this is wrong, or I'm right and you're wrong. That's always a fun one, isn't it? Because our perception and understanding has grown, and we start to see situations through our God eyes. Let's take the word judgment and let's unpack that a little bit. In the denser frequencies, judgment is harsh. It's a harsh emotion. It's a harsh act or word. And it comes down to a sentence of being locked into it's like a sentence that's been locked into our persona. When somebody judges us as a particular way, we're kind of locked into that persona in their mind. A situation might be judged as toxic. We might say, oh, it's such a toxic thing. And everyone in that situation is a bad person. And then that judgment is over and done with. We've written it off. Those people and situation, it's done. Our prison system pretty much runs that way. It doesn't have, it's just bad, locked up, done, and throw away the key. How much better would it be if we put grace in that equation for those folks and, worked at bringing them around? That's a whole nother topic. However, as we come into our heart center, I'm going down another rabbit hole. The work my sister does with the prisons and her dogs, the prisoners training her dogs, has just really opened my eyes to what it could be. Yeah. Anyway, so however, as we come into our heart center and we vibrate at these increased frequencies of God's love and the divine love, we would be discerning in that same situation that we might judge as bad. We might judge those people as bad or wrong. But if we're discerning, we still come to the place where we would say, that situation isn't good for me. I don't want to go, I don't want to be a part of it. But it'd be from a different place within us that we would determine that. It would come from a place of wise judgment. And we would see that situation through the eyes of the divine. And we would assess the situation, decide, well, that situation isn't to my best interest, but I don't need to judge them. It's just something I don't want to get involved in. So just because we're not judging them harshly doesn't mean we need to allow our life, nor do we need to allow them in our life, nor do we need to go in and save them from themselves. Go in and tell them how they could be different. It's not about that either. It's just about we preserve ourselves and we allow them to be and have whatever they have, but we stay in a state of grace. And this leaves room, and in this way, it leaves room for grace to enter into our hearts, and that grace vibrates out because we're holding the grace and we're thinking about the situation and we're being discerning about it. It's not good for me, but they can do what they want, and we're staying in a state of love. We're now vibrating that love out, and we have no idea the effect that field that we're creating of love that is immeasurable can have on that situation. And it's really not our business because that's God's work. But we're doing it, but we're just being that love and it's vibrating out. And in the long run, it may change the situation. Those people may make different decisions. They may say, "Ooh, I don't want to do this anymore," and they elevate themselves out of that negative situation. It's always possible. All these things, all these miracles are possible. In the frequency of the upper fourth level, we have room we have the grace of God for the situation to not be as it appears to be. We have room for understanding that there might be a lot of other things happening in that situation that we don't have the understanding or the sight to see. We have to have faith and trust that God is in that situation and it's not for us to meddle with. But we can still wisely discern that we don't want to be a part of it. Just because you understand it and have compassion doesn't mean you need to jump in. I think sometimes there's confusion around that. So let's take another word. Let's take the act of gossiping. How can we elevate that? How can we see that with God's eyes? To talk badly about someone just for the sake of being important, or to cause damage to another individual, is a pretty dense frequency. It's a very dense energy. But what is the higher truth? If we were to look at that through our heart center and look at it with our God's eyes, maybe we would see them as a storyteller. Maybe they're a really good storyteller. We would see that person who sees details and that can spin those details into a story. It's just misled. There's other things going on within them, but they have the skill of storytelling. I learned to think about these things from Jean Houston. Years ago, I was at a conference with Mary Mann and Morrissey, and she had Jean Houston as one of the instructors there. And Jean, I've told this before, but so I apologize for you guys that might think, "Oh, there she is telling stories again." But it's still good because it's in the context of this. So anyway, she asked somebody in the audience to volunteer something that they see that perceive in themselves as a negative characteristic that they would really like to change. So this woman volunteered. I didn't volunteer, man. I was not going to put myself up on the stage for that. Whew. But this one woman volunteered, and she said, "I'm a manipulator." Oh, man, that's courageous. And so Jean had her come up on the stage, and she backed away, and she looked at her field and looked at her aura, and she said, "You are a weaver. It's just a misguided skill. You're a weaver." She suggested she take up the craft of weaving as the physical act of being able to take threads of reality, threads of stories, threads of situations, and weaving them into a pattern. Isn't that beautiful? So that's the lens that I'm wanting us to look at these different kinds of characteristics. One of them, could be judgment. One of them could be gossip. They're just a good storyteller that's misguided, being used in a non-constructive way or destructive way. So this perception doesn't make gossiping right or acceptable at all, but it allows grace to be a part of the situation. It allows grace to be a part of what we hold in our hearts, and we experience it with a softer heart and a spirit of compassion. So how about jealousy? That's a tough one sometimes. It is a very different density in the fourth, from the third dimension into the fourth, into the upper rungs of the fourth dimension. This jealousy drives corporations into bad behavior and unhealthy competition. But in our personal world, it can be very painful to be jealous of another person's achievements or accomplishments. But if we look at it from this other perspective, from the eyes of God, we could see that what it really is desire for self-improvement. They just want to be better. They just don't know how to get there. They want to be a better person. They want to be better at whatever it is that they see in that other person being better than what they perceive themselves to be. It's all a matter of perception. But they're just wanting self-improvement. So when we see these denser energies, they're not really right or wrong or good or bad when we look at them with our heart center and we look at them through God's eyes. So what are we doing in allowing our heart to be softer? We are allowing others to live their life the way that allows them to improve and to come along in a spirit that is good and right for them. We're living our life with the grace of God. And it has health benefits too. We're not as stressed, keeps our blood pressure down. So when my daughter was little, I used to, when we'd read a story or hear a story, I'd always say to her, so now what was the moral of the story? I always wanted her to think about the big picture. Hear a story, but what's the big picture? So she got really good at it. It's turned out to be really beneficial. She's a writer and a storyteller now, so it's great. So the moral of this story is to notice how we are reacting to people and or situations so that we can determine where we are in our personal development. Where are we standing right now? We go up and down all of these densities all the time. We're not ever, even Jesus did, Jesus had to grow and learn. He threw the tables over in the temple one time, so he had a temper. He had to grow and learn too, so we get to too. It's if we fall into the lower densities and we show some of these characteristics, it's okay. It just shows us where we're at. It's like, oh, look what I just did. Okay, well, I want to get back up. I want to bring my vibration up. I want to get back into God's grace. So don't be hard on yourself. Give yourself the grace and just notice where you're at in your density. Notice how it feels, and then find your way through it back to your heart center. And as you find the grace within yourself and elevate your vibrational frequencies, you know that you're radiating that grace. You know that you're radiating that love to others. And if life is hard, just know that you're doing your personal work. If things aren't showing up in your world, it's just because you're doing your work. I'm processing right now. I'm going to get through it, and things are going to get easier. So it also demonstrates the difference between doing and being. When we're in that third level, or in the second level, we're processing, we're doing. But when we get into the third level, we're being it. It's a part of who we are. We're embodying it. So we can ask ourselves, am I working at it, or am I being it? Am I trying to do it, or am I embodying it? Those questions will help us decide where we're at with it. So our goal is to be our best self and embody our God self. So I hope this makes sense to you and gives you something to hold yourself in a loving and graceful space. So let's go into a little meditation. Get yourself comfortable, put your feet on the floor, or whatever it is that you're comfortable with. Take a nice deep breath. And feel how you feel inside right now. Where is your attention drawn? Do you have stress? Do you have stress in your belly? Maybe a little headache? And let's just let those frequencies go. Just release them without judgment. And just let them go and come into your heart center. Come into the center of your heart and expand that love out into the field around you, knowing that this is where love is. And in the inner sanctum of your heart is this beautiful chamber where we hold the divine. We hold our God self. We hold the divine in that place. It's very safe and very sacred. And as we connect with that deep, sacred place within our heart, bring those feelings out into the outer spaces of your beingness, and allow that to be what we send out into the world, that we send out into this room, thinking of our loved ones. Maybe there's somebody in your life that's having difficulty. Send that heart space energy to them. Just see them and send it to them without judgment, without decision about whether it's right or wrong for them. And if it's right for them, they'll receive it. And if it's not, it'll just go on by. It's not for you to decide. Just hold them in that beautiful, loving space. And then move on to other people. Maybe there's a situation that you're struggling with. Just see it from the eagle's point of view. See it from above. Just send that loving space, that sacred relationship with the divine into that situation, allowing it to be transformed, allowing it to become a higher version, an elevated version of itself, allowing all parties to be learning and growing, allowing God's work to be done in that situation. And then just release it, knowing that it's moving in through the universe. Come back to your own heart center, nurturing yourself, sending that love to yourself into your own field that will fuel you for the rest of this day, the rest of this week, making life easier for you, allowing that grace to fill your spaces, to fill your home, to fill your environment, knowing that anybody who enters that space will be elevated by it in this most beautiful and benevolent way. Bring your attention and your awareness back to this room, back to your body. And when you feel like it, you can open your eyes. How you doing? All right. So now we're going to ask for the offering for the home center, for support of the home center. So take our gift and put it between our hands, giving it a blessing of our heart, that beautiful energy that we just generated, infuse that into the gift. The home center will gratefully receive it. And just infuse it with your love and your support, knowing that it's supporting us and those yet to come. And see it coming back to you and blessing you 100 times with all of the things that make you happy and bring joy to your life. And let it be so. Amen. All right, so that basket's going around. So all the baskets going around, I'm going to invite Dick back up to share his inspirational story and the closing blessing for our broadcast. Then I'll come up and do announcements.
So my closing statement this afternoon is from Deepak Chakra on holding space. Chokra. Say that 3 times quickly. The art of being present with others. Holding space is a conscious act of being present, open, allowing, and protective of what others need in each moment. The term has been growing in popularity among caregivers, healers, yogis, and spiritual seekers. It's a broadly used phrase to define the act of being there for another. The effects of this practice, however, go much deeper than that, than simply offering support. Consider the individual words for a moment. To hold means to embrace or encircle someone or something in your grasp. Physically, this might take the form of a hug or the cradling of a hand in your hands. But you can also embrace someone non-physically with your intentions, attention, and energy. Space refers to the immediate environment you are sharing with another. This, too, may be the physical space of a room, but more frequently refers to the mental and emotional environment you are in with others. Put together, these words embody the principle of surrounding the environment with your awareness in a way that provides comfort and compassion for all. And into our closing prayer then. Thank God for all of the wonderful things that we have experienced here this morning. The love that has been showered upon us, that we have been able to share with one another. I pray that we will learn and understand how to live in the spiritual love that is present in our chapel today. As I close our service, I recognize and share the 4 pillars of our spiritual support: love, light, compassion, and forgiveness. May we always remember and strive to live within these 4 pillars of spiritual strength. In God and Christ, love and light, I pray, amen. And to those of you on Facebook Live and YouTube, this ends our service for this Sunday. Hope to see you back next week. Home Center out.